What if I told you that you could make sports betting a profitable side hustle with as little as 1 hour a day? I'll show you how and how much you could make doing this right now. Hi, I'm Jack from Unabated.com. Gambling has been my primary source of income for a long time, but before I opted to be a full-time pro, I had a regular job. I worked in IT at a law firm.
Type in
Move!
During that time, being an Advantage player was just a very profitable side hustle to me. Maybe you're in a similar position. Work or family commitments limit the time you can devote to being a winning sports bettor. I've said before that sports betting will take all the time you give it and still ask for more. But what if you refuse to give it more? Can you still make a profit while keeping sports betting in a time box? Yes, I believe so. Off the top, let's dispel a common misconception. For many, the path that looks easiest to winning sports betting is to tail someone else's picks. Paying for picks is almost never a good idea.
I charge $9.95, that's right, $1,000 for a pick.
Mostly because people who sell picks do so because they can't win by just betting themselves. The overhead of buying picks causes you to win less when you win and lose more when you lose. On top of that, you need to be able to make your bet at the price they specify. And if they're good, that price won't be available long. Likewise, if they release a pick and the market doesn't move, well, that's even worse. The bottom line is buying picks or tailing someone else is proven to be a very ineffective way to beat sports betting. And it's even worse if you just don't have the time to chase lines. So get that out of your head now as a viable shortcut. In my previous videos, I've outlined methods you can use to get an edge at sports betting. I've talked about the top-down method, where you use the market to find plays that have value. I've talked about originators and how they get an edge. I've given the example of the NFL money tree, where you should focus on the low-hanging fruit to get an edge. That includes props and promos and bonuses. The method you use is up to you. Let's figure out how to do it within the time you have available. First, if you only have an hour a day for sports betting, you need to figure out which hour you have available. This will greatly influence what methods you have available to you for betting. If the hour can be any hour of your choosing, then great. You're in the best position. But what if that hour is during your lunch break or after the kids have gone to bed? In this case, you need to figure out what focus of sports betting is available to you during that time. And that's an important point. You're going to need to narrow your focus. You're not going to be able to be some all-powerful wizard of sports betting, able to get the edge at every sport on the calendar. You have to respect that with less time comes less scope of what you can do each day. But that's also a good thing. Too often, people spread themselves too thin when attempting to get an edge at sports betting. The best pro bettors I know have a lot of focus on what they're doing. Once you have your hour carved out, you need to find out what's available for you to do in that hour. You see, different times of the day have advantages and disadvantages when betting sports. For instance, in the morning, there can be a lot of line movement due to information about injuries or lineups. If you're trying to beat the market by getting ahead of line moves, that's a good time to pick it off in the morning. If you're betting props, though, you may want to wait until later in the day when there's more information about playing time or injuries. In the early evening, as we get closer to game times, the betting market is more efficient. It's tougher to make a profit purely on line moves at that time. Leaning on something that takes advantage of the market being more solid would be a better use of your hour. Something like alternate lines or try to get the edge on promotions like odds boosts. If your time for betting is during the games in the evening, don't overlook in-game betting. Sportsbooks love in-game betting because it creates more betting opportunities where the house has the edge. The more bets they can entice from bettors, the better it is for the sportsbook. However, in-game betting is definitely beatable. If you want to focus on in-game markets with your limited time, it might be very much worth your while. Now, if you're a night owl and the only option you have is late night after all the games of that day have ended, your choices are the overnight betting market or to focus on events farther out than the next day. Be aware that limits are typically lower in the overnight hours. There's also a lot of market movement that hasn't happened yet. It's difficult to chase line moves at a time when the market is not moving and is also tougher to gauge. Now, if you're an originator, the overnight market might be good for you. However, it's tough to originate with just 1 hour a day. Also, don't forget that betting is 24/7 worldwide. there's potentially some sports markets overseas where your hour aligns with that betting market. Now that you have your hour and what your focus is going to be, you need to streamline the process. Remember, the key to taking this approach is to keep sports betting in a time box for you without it taking up too much of your life. Instead of getting the most bang for your buck, we need to think about getting the most buck for our bang. Cut out all the things that don't fit in that hour time box. You won't have time to do a lot of research and reading through beat writers or studying play-by-play data. With only an hour a day, you probably don't have time to build a model to attack sports betting. However, if you do, make sure it's automated enough that you don't spend too much time updating the model each day. If you're practicing a top-down approach like I've talked about in other videos, make sure you understand the nuance of the sport you're looking to bet. Market dynamics are important. For instance, what time do lineups come out in Major League Baseball? What time are injury reports posted in the NFL? When is that night's starting goalie announced in the NHL? All of these nuances are key if you don't have time to be glued to your computer all day. You need to know these times ahead of time. You also need to shop lines between sportsbooks quickly. Remember, you don't have time to waste. You'll need to use an odds screen to see the entire market at the same time. One temptation you'll encounter as you try to keep sports betting in this time box is the fear of missing out, the FOMO, especially when you hear what other people are doing. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still get a little jealous when I see someone else having success betting in a way that's different than what I do. Resist that urge, though. You have the time bandwidth to be doing it the way you're doing it. Trying to add more into your time box will only take your focus off of what you're doing. Now, in time, you can add some variety into your routine and be creative with what you do in your hour. For instance, Monday through Wednesday might be the morning hour where you play NBA and college basketball line moves. Thursdays and Fridays may be your work on football props for the weekend. Weekends might be an evening hour where you in-game bet a game that you're watching. Personally, I have a pretty large arsenal of ways I can attack sports betting markets, but I don't always have the time. I know how much work each method is going to take, so some days maybe I just have time to make some teaser bets, or other days I can watch my odds screen and find value. Maybe I just have time to fire a few props or calculate an in-game line. It keeps sports betting exciting for me when I'm not doing the same thing all day, every day. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how much can I make betting sports in just 1 hour a day? Well, that answer greatly depends on your bankroll, your betting, what sportsbooks you have access to, and what kind of positive expected value you're getting in those bets. However, a bettor with access to at least half a dozen sportsbooks who can find 5 to 10 advantageous bets in the course of an hour per day could expect to nearly double their bankroll over a full year. It's all about finding those plus EV bets and then finding enough of them that you can realize your ROI and keep churning your bankroll. Now, if I assume a 4% average edge and responsible betting, every 20 days or so I'll have bet a total amount roughly equal to my bankroll. That ROI compounds every time I roll over my bankroll over the course of a year. If you are reinvesting your winnings into your bankroll, you can use the rule of 72 to divide 72 by the rate of return to see how many bankroll cycles it'll take to double your bankroll. Now for 4%, that's 18. Now 365 days divided by every 20 days coincidentally gives us 18 cycles in a year. So therefore, you could double your bankroll in a year at just 1 hour a day. It's definitely possible, and I know plenty of people who have turned sports betting into a profitable side hustle while still maintaining a full-time job and other life commitments. If this interests you, you should probably check out more of the videos on our channel, including this one here. It'll help you see how real sports betting is done and how you can potentially get in on it. I'll see you in there.